Please join me to welcome Dr. Ramachandra to share his valuable insights on addressing water scarcity in Bangalore with rapid urbanization and climatic change, which we all are suffering these days.
So what I'm going to do the next 45 to 50 minutes is, first part of my talk is what I have done in Western Ghats. And the second part is, since I spent some time in Bengaluru, which I call it as a hell. So I will talk about how the heaven has become a hell for a period of time. You know, I strongly feel that crisis of water today is because of the absence of the water urbanism. That means when we planned for a city, we didn't consider how much open spaces or the other spaces has to be kept. You know that any landscape to retain the water has to be porous. But in the name of development, we converted that into paved surface. So, and there is a loss of interconnectivity among the lake. So the solution is creating ecological pore spaces through trees, parks, forests, wetlands, etc. You know, one person whom I have followed very closely is Professor C.N. While in the campus, morning time when I used to take a walk, we used to see each other. His concern for the trees is known to all of us. As a student, as a faculty, we all appreciate that. When I come to this campus, I see the similar thing. Had every institution maintained this kind of greenery, we wouldn't have faced the water crisis in Bangalore. Now, you know, the agenda of my research is to make sure that all have water. You know, clean air, water and environment is the agenda. You know, for that, you need to do the planning. You know, that is where, you know, what kind of planning one has to do. Essentially, if you maintain the ecosystem integrity, you are not harming the system. You know, that is where responsible decision making is required. That requires the decentralized governance. Okay. So now, you know, what I learned from nature, I just take it to my lab, and that's where I develop the technology. You know, my emphasis is on nature-based solution. You know, when I talk about rejuvenating lake or treating the wastewater, I follow the principle of that. See, now when you look at this simple food chain, you see that energy and material transfer is happening from one level to the other level. And end of this one, you see whatever is left in the system gets converted into elemental form by bacteria and fungi, the microorganism. That's where in nature there is nothing called waste. You know, we develop a technology based on phytoremediation, bioremediation, based on the microbial, etc. What organism have been doing over a period of time to understand that we took time, and to then of course we have our own patents for that kind of thing. So the message here is there is nothing called waste in the nature. Then where do you see waste? You will see waste where waste people are there. Those who have strong affinity to the synthetic material like plastic, etc. So now let's look at my work in Western Ghats. You know, these are all biodiversity hotspots. Let's understand how many species that are there on the earth. You know, on earth, look at our scriptures. Mentions about 8 to 12 million species. And in science, we have estimated about 1.3 billion species. Why do we need these varieties? You know, when you have varieties of species, you have varieties of food. Because of varieties of food, you have immunity. You know, especially people who come from Western Ghats will understand what I am saying. Probably the people in Bangalore may not understand that. You know, now let us look at where this on the earth, where do we have this kind of diversity of species? You know, the Western Ghat is from Kerala to Gujarat. Latitudinally, it is from 8 to 22 degree latitude. Now, when you look at the number of species that occur on the earth, you see that 8 to 14 degree latitude have the highest number of species. That corresponds to Kerala and Karnataka part of Western Ghats. Now, that means some of us have inherited this kind of the resource. It's our responsibility to maintain that, to conserve that, and pass it on to our next generation. when I talk about next generation, not necessarily Indians, anyone on the earth. Now, to understand what changes are happening in the region, that's where the science and technology help. We launched the satellites way back in 70s. Now, from 70s onwards, every 21 or 30 days interval, we get the picture of the Earth. Once you have the picture of the Earth, with the latest the techniques based on artificial intelligence and machine learning, you can do the wonders. Earlier to analyze the land use of one district, people used to take a year. But today, within about 6 months, the entire Western Ghat was analyzed by Dr. Bharat, who is sitting in the audience, who is also faculty currently at Chanakya University, my student. Okay, so this gives, when you do this kind of analysis, it gives us how the forest is changing. You see that green is declining. Not only green is declining, continuity or contiguity in the green is also is getting disrupted. The forests are getting fragmented. Fragmentation of the forest will lead to the inbreeding of the species and extinction of the species. Now, let's look at the carbon that is stored in the forest. That when we talk about changes in climate, we all know that it is because of the greenhouse gas. Carbon is the major species that is there in the atmosphere that creates that problem. Now, let us see this forest ecosystem or the terrestrial ecosystem in the Western Ghats, how much carbon that is stored. We quantify it through the carbon stored in the above ground biomass and below ground biomass and the soil, and this gives the total the carbon in the system. And every year, how much carbon that gets incremented in the system also we quantify. And our study shows that this standing carbon in the system is about 1.23 million gigagram, and every year about 37,000 gigagram of carbon gets sequestered. Now that is the carbon that is emitted in the cities like Trivandrum, Kochi, Chennai, Bengaluru, etc. That means the nature was doing the balance, but our greediness is disrupting this balance. If you look at it economically, the monetary term, the carbon service amounts to about 100 billion rupees. That is about $1.4 billion. Why did I do this quantification? See, when I go to the international forum, I tell them, see, the carbon that is stored in the forest, in my forest, is the carbon emitted by them, because at that time my country was not industrialized. And they have to pay. If I have to conserve the forest in my country, they have to pay for that. So that's where the natural capital accounting and ecosystem services has to be the. Now, what is the likely scenario? We try to project it. Now, there will be further reduction in the forest. Now, in the last 2 decades, there has been a 5% decline in the evergreen forest in the Western Ghats. Now, our prediction shows that we will have only 10% under evergreen in the Western Ghats. Now, the likely implication of that is there will be increase in temperature and changes in rainfall pattern, the special pattern, and intensity of rainfall. Now, see the region like the Kerala, which is the cooler, will become warmer by 1.5 degrees Celsius. That is going to affect the economy of the Kerala. And then the rainfall pattern. The rainfall which is in the Kerala and Karnataka part is higher, but we will receive lesser rainfall. And then the other part, arid region, will start getting the higher rainfall. Now you would have seen in the last 2 or the last week in the media about how one of the desert region is getting the rainfall. The flooding is happening in the desert region. And the third thing is changes in rainfall, the intensity. The rain which is supposed to be spread 4 to 6 months, you will start getting it in a shorter duration. That high intensity rainfall is the problem, because that will lead to the flooding, and consequence of flooding is the landslides and mudslides. This article we published in 2018. End of the thing, I had written that we are going to face the problem in the places like Kodagu and Kerala. And at that time, people did accept my statement. But when the flooding happened in Kodagu and the Wayanad in Kerala, immediately people started saying that, how did you predict that? See, that is the job of the scientist, to alert the system. That's what we have been doing it. Okay? So now, will it matter to us? So let us look at the implication of the increase in temperature, whether it's a coral bleaching or the species loss. See, just with a zero point 0.5 degrees Celsius increase, you will see that there's a large number of species we are going to lose. You know, whether it's the insects or the plants or the vertebrates. This one is the current. If there is an increase in temperature, then you are going to see that the thing. And most of the species are endemic species. Endemic means it occurs in a particular location, and that meets the immunity and other requirement of the region. And this is a drought. The implication of the drought is about, you can see that the million, the people who is going to be affected is remarkably high, from 350 to 410. Okay, and then rise in sea level, the parts of the country is going to face the problem. 48 centimeter to the 2 degree, this one is 56. Okay, and more importantly, we are going to face the water crisis. And the crop revenue would fall in our country by 60%. And if you look at the India, we are stressed for the water. That is where we need to plan. See, country has to develop, but not at the cost of water. So that is what we need to understand. Now let us try to understand the linkage between the water and the ecosystem before I come to the Bengaluru. We all know that Bangalore gets the water from Kaveri, which means about 60% of the water requirement of the city, and 40% comes from the bore wells or the underground resources. Now, the 60% is also we are facing the problem. That is because of degradation that's happening. Over the last 4 decades in the Kaveri basin, we have lost 45% of the forest cover, and today only 18% is under forest in the Kaveri basin. What is the norm that we are supposed to have? 33% should have been the forest cover in the Western Ghats or any part of the country, but what we have today is 18%. And many of us don't even question this. Now let us see whether the forest is required for a people like me or whether the forest is required for everyone. Let us try to understand. To understand this, I will take you to the place where I worked almost 2.5 decades. This is a region. When I was young, I used to see a lot of water, but today, the same day, I don't have the water. Now that could be because of the vegetation cover, absence of vegetation cover. Now that means the way the land is covered, if you alter the land cover, then ecological functioning of the functioning of the ecosystem also changes. That is, what are the functions of the ecosystem? We all have understood that hydrological cycle, biogeochemical cycling, nutrient cycling, these are all the ecosystem functions. Now to understand this further, I will take you to one of the river basin in Western Ghats. This river basin, the Sharati river basin, it originates in Ambutirtha, traverses 128 kilometers, joins the ocean in 1 hour. Now when I look at the Linganmakki catchment area, this is the Linganmakki dam. That means dam is constructed at the Linganmakki. So, and this is a water spread area. Now, when you look at this region, it's an undulating region. It's the rain catching region. Now, when you look at carefully, one part of the catchment has a good vegetation cover, other is the degraded landscape. Now, let us look at what changes has happened over a period of time after constructing the dam. The changes happened because of the irresponsible actions by the people who are implementing this project. They didn't worry about the people. They didn't, there were 179 villages were there in this area. They were forcefully evicted. They were dumped in the dryer belt. Okay. So now, see what happened after the reservoir is constructed. Those people, they came back to the Sharati river basin. They converted forest into the agricultural land, and today this region has the barren area. Now one part you see the dense vegetation cover like this, other part is the degraded catchment like this. Now let us look at the rainfall, whether there is any rainfall changes in the region. See, the 123 years rainfall data is available in our country. Just download that data, divide it into 2 time period, 1901 to 1964 and 1965 to today. Why 1964? Because we constructed a dam in 1964. Now, when you look at the rainfall data, you see the entire catchment was receiving the rainfall of 3,000 to 4,500. But today, one part of the catchment receives 3,000 to 4,500, while the other part is receiving 1,700 to 1,900 millimeter. That means there is a decline in the rainfall in the region because of the removal of the vegetation cover. You know, removal of the vegetation cover in the Western Ghat hill range certainly matters. Because when you look at the water cycle, the process of condensation and precipitation is disrupted when we remove the vegetation cover there. So the cloud will move to the other place. Then we don't have the rain. Okay. Now to understand further, I have divided the catchment into sub-basin. For each tributary, we look at the forest cover and the rainfall. These are the sub-basins on the western side. These are the sub-basins on the eastern side. When you look at the forest cover and the rainfall in this catchment, this is somewhere closer to Tirthalli, this one, you see the forest cover is about 30%, rainfall is 1,776. While on the western side, where Nehru and Sharavati, they are there, forest cover is 65%, rainfall is 4,800, or forest cover 60%, rainfall is 4,400, which illustrates that there is a link between the forest cover and the rainfall. Now to see what is the quantity of rain you get, that doesn't matter. How long the water is available in your well or in the water body, that matters to you. See, to understand that, we carried out a hydrological investigation in the various catchment. We chose some catchment dominated by native species forest, some catchment dominated by the monoculture plantation, and some catchment dominated by the urban landscape. And we monitored when it rains, how much water gets infiltrated. We put the sensors in the underlying layer, and our study showed when the catchment is dominated by native species forest, about 55 to 60% of the rainfall gets infiltrated and gets stored in the underlying layer here, groundwater zone and water zone. And when the catchment is dominated by monoculture plantation, that means somebody has cut this native species forest in the name of development, made a coffee plantation, rubber plantation. Our study shows that only 35 to 40% of the rainfall get infiltrated. And when we convert that into the degraded landscape with the forest cover less than 30%, only about 28 to 30% of the rainfall get infiltrated. Okay. Now to summarize what I said so far, we graded the streams as A, B, C, D. A are the one which carry the water for 12 months, B for 8 months, C for 6 months, and D for 4 months. You look at the A type of water bodies, these have water throughout the year, provided the catchment has the vegetation cover of native species more than 55 to 60%. And when we declare the catchment with the forest cover less than 30%, we have the water only during the monsoon. Now, this is the region, where the good native species forest is there. You can see the infiltration as high as 55 to 60%. Here, the degraded landscape, you see the forest cover is less than 30%. You see that only 28 or 30% of the rainfall gets infiltrated. Now, we also looked at the demand of the water in the region. People use water for agriculture, horticulture, livestock, fish rearing, etc. When we did that quantification, we see wherever forests are there, demand for water is higher and there is a surplus water. See, when you talk about development of the country, people say we need to remove the forest to have the development in the country. But see here, wherever forests are there, demand is also high, enough water is there. Wherever people have degraded the landscape in the name of development, the demand is much higher than the water available. That is the scarcity region. Now to summarize, this is the region I have 12 months water. Green are the one 8 months and yellow is 6 months and this is 4 months. Just overlay the forest cover layer on that. See, wherever intact forests are there, contiguous forests are there, you have 12 months water. Wherever the forests are fragmented, depending on the scale of fragmentation, we have 8 to 6 months of water. Wherever the forest cover is less than the 30%, we have 4 months of water. Now you might ask, so what? How it matters for the people in Bangalore? You see that farmers in this region, if they earn 1,54,000 rupees per acre per year, because the water is available throughout the year, they can grow multiple crop or a cash crop. Whereas in this region, since the water is available only for 4 to 6 months, they can grow only one crop, their earning is 32,000 rupees per acre per year. Now, where is 32,000? Where is 1,54,000? Then another interesting thing our study brought out is the presence of pollinators. In this region where the water is available throughout the year, the moisture content is high. Because of that, pollinators are abundant and diverse. And because of that, the pollination is efficient. When pollination is efficient, yield of the crop is higher, which means here if you look at the paddy, the yield is as high as 12 to 18 quintal per acre. Whereas in this region, the yield is about 6 to 8 quintal per acre because of the degraded landscape, there is not much, there are pollinators there. Now, you see the government of India's program, they want to double the income of the farmers. My suggestion to the government of India is just maintain the ecosystem integrity. The forest will give the water and the pollination will happen. They don't have to do anything extra. Well, let us look at other diversity of the species. This all indicates various taxa like sloth, bear, tiger, etc. They all are there only where water is there throughout the year. Where water is not there, only two-legged animal is there, fighting for water. And we also described two new species of fish. This has a medicinal value. The Schistura nagodiensis and Schistura shalawatiensis. As a scientist, I also thought that okay, if I culture it in my lab here, I can become a billionaire. But this poor fellow didn't have medicinal properties when we cultured in the lab. So that means if I want medicine, I have to make sure that it grows in its habitat. That is where, for it to grow in its habitat, water should be there throughout the year. For water to be there, terrestrial ecosystem should have native species forest. So that is where brings the linkage between the terrestrial biodiversity with the aquatic diversity. Now with changes in climate happening, global warming, there won't be any water on the earth. When there is no water on the earth, none of us will survive. However talented we are, how intelligent we are. But look at the other species, how they get adapted to a situation. See, when we talk about changes in climate, we use the terms like mitigation, adaptation, etc. Let me take one example of a frog. You all know the frog is known as amphibian because it has two stages in the life cycle. The first stage is junior stage is in the water, the tadpole stage, the next stage is in the land. Because of that, we call them amphibian. Now, if there is no water on the earth, what will happen to the frog? The junior stage doesn't happen. So, in such a case, this particular species, Pilatus leucorinus, what it does is, it just bypasses the tadpole stage. If the tadpole stage is there, then only water is required. So, it bypasses the tadpole stage. So, when my student pointed out that to me, I said that let us get this fertilized egg to the Bangalore, let us monitor in the lab. So, when we monitored, on the 14th day, we saw the younger ones emerging out. That means these animals have learned, organisms have learned how to get adapted to a situation, whereas none of us will be able to do that. Okay, this is what we understood, and our elders had protected the forest. They knew that where forest is there, the people get water in the wells. That's where they named it as sacred forest, Devalakadu or Kartu or Kars like that, or cows or rice in Goa and Maharashtra. Now, as long as Lord Shiva, his head is covered with hair, we have the water, Ganga. Similarly, when our Mother Earth is covered with a green saree of native species, she retains the water for 12 months and gives us the water for 12 months. When we convert that saree into synthetic saree of rubber plantation, acacia, eucalyptus, etc., she retains the water for 6 to 8 months. That means we lose the water for 4 to 6 months. When we degrade the catchment with the forest now less than 30%, we have water only during the monsoon. Now, unfortunately, these forests are getting degraded. The people from Bangalore, idle brain always think of idols only. So that's what happens, converted into idle land. Well, let us learn from the history book. If you don't want to see the present research, what happened earlier. The Easter Island, people thought land is available, they went on expanding. Like Bangalore became Bruhat Bangalore, like that. But one day they have to vacate the island because there was no water. Last leg of Vijayanagara kingdom failed because of the water scarcity. If we do not wake up today, the same situation will happen to the most part of the India, all the major cities. That's where we need to adopt the ecosystem approach. We need to maintain the physical integrity and chemical integrity, then only we will have the biological integrity. The natural resources are available only if you maintain physical integrity and chemical integrity, which means you should not alter the ecosystem drastically. Chemical integrity, you should not alter the chemical aspect of the ecosystem. You should not pollute the system. Okay. Now, let me, how we can, as a scientist, we can take this idea forward. I thought that, okay, if I just tell them that these are biodiversity rich region and all, people may not accept it. So we developed the expert system, the decision support system. We integrated all these variables, the biogeoclimatic, social variables, everything we integrated. On the weighted metrics, this one, we identified the region which are ecologically sensitive. How did we do that? We divided Western Ghat into 5 minutes by 5 minutes, or 9 kilometer by 9 kilometer grid, and depending on the forest cover, we assign the weights. Okay. Similarly, the quality of the forest, we assign the weight. Like this, for each variable, we assign the weights. Then we integrated, and we had a composite score. Based on that, like something like our transcripts, when we assign the marks to the student, what we do, the consolidate all the scores of the subject. Exactly, same thing we did. So now, this gives the flora of the carbon in the system. And you look at the fauna and the flora. See, in Kerala and Karnataka part, you have the higher tree endemism. Similarly, the animal endemism. Endemism means it occurs only in that region. Okay, you cannot bring it somewhere else and put it in the zoo. Okay, then composite score shows, divides the region into 4 levels. You have the highly sensitive region, then the ESR2, ESR3, ESR4, like that. Okay, and we also delineated at the village level. Then we developed the decision support system, we put it online so that people can visualize whether their village is the ecologically sensitive. If it is ecologically sensitive, why it is so. Okay, so that this available at our portal. If time permits at the end, if net connectivity is there, I will do that. Okay. Now with that, let me bring you to the Bangalore. The Bangalore was a land of lakes. Okay, and why we want lakes or in the Bangalore landscape? I said 40% of Bangalorean depends on the groundwater. And when there's a water, when there's a security of water, you have the food security also and health also. Now, in that connection, we developed the Bangalore Lake Information System, thinking that if I put all the lake information of Bangalore, including water quality and what kind of biological organisms are there, microalgae, then zooplankton, fish, etc., make it public so that people can find out what is the kind of the lake that is there. You can search your lake close by what is there here. So then also we put the encroachment details. We have who has encroached and how they have encroached, how things have changed over a period of time. Okay. Now let us look at Bangalore. The city of Bangalore, which is about 740 square kilometer. In this 740 square kilometer, way back in 1800 or 1500, we had 1,452 lakes and 82% green cover because of the temperature in the city was 14 to 16 degrees Celsius during the month of May, that is the summer, and 0 degrees Celsius in December. For a few days we enjoyed the 0 degrees Celsius, and we were growing at a place called Palace Orchard or the Palace Ground. We were growing apple. And what are we growing today? We have 193 wetlands, most of them are sewage fed, and less than 8% green cover, and the garbage everywhere. The city, which was a garden city, became a garbage city, and today it's a dead city. Okay? And when you look at the lakes are interconnected. How that interconnection will happen? If you look at the topography, you see that highest point is here. Highest point is my campus, IISC campus is located at the highest point. The main gate of my campus is the highest point of 942 meters. Okay, we are on the top academically as well as the location wise, and we have 3 watersheds. That the river was passing. Our elders put the points at regular interval. That's how the flowing water body became a stagnant water body to meet the irrigation and the other demands. Okay, this gives a glimpse of earlier lakes, and current 193 water bodies are there. In our lake information system, you will get all the details. Okay, now why do we require the lake? Because when I sit in the committees, people tell me lakes are not required in Bangalore. There are experts, and some of them are from nearby areas here. They say that there is no irrigation requirement in Bangalore. Why do we require the lake? I always tell them, do you drink water? Groundwater recharge happens. And morning I see the same fellows taking a walk in the morning. That's the recreation service they are enjoying. But still, they don't want lakes here. So the lakes provide the provisioning services, then also does the regulating services like groundwater recharge, moderates the microclimate, and also provide recreation, the cultural services. Now, to understand this, see when the lake was there, the people were getting the water at 80 to 100 feet. After the removal of the lake, the water table went down to 600 feet. And today, after 22 years, the people have gone down to 1800 feet in such of water, but there is no water there. This is not very far, Nakshaki Hadi. Some localities with intense urbanization, groundwater table has gone down to 1000 and 2600 feet. Now, to understand the linkage between the lake and the groundwater, just come to the Saraki Lake. Saraki Lake was rejuvenated 3 years back. Earlier people didn't want the rejuvenation to happen. I pressurized the government to do that, and of course the local people are also very vocal. So that's where when people are vocal, the things work in our country. When that happened, within a first year of rejuvenation of the lake with the desilting, etc., I saw the groundwater table increase by 320 feet. Then today, 3 years from that day, 3 years, and if you go to the Saraki Lake, the groundwater table is high, and Saraki Lake has enough water. Because of that enough water, you have a pleasant climate in the Saraki Lake catchment, whereas the most part of the city, the temperature has gone to the 36 or 37 degrees Celsius. And the most part of the city doesn't have the water. Forget about the elite section of the society, people who are residing in the apartments and who can afford to buy, because of the tanker mafia they can afford to buy. But people like me who stay elsewhere will face the water crisis. So now, biodiversity in the Saraki Lake is also good, and temperature in that locality at least 3 degrees lower than the surrounding. That means the service what the lake are doing, we have demonstrated in the case of Saraki Lake. So is the case of Chakur Lake also. Now when the lake is not polluted, people get fish, water. How much resource they get to an extent of 10,500 rupees per day per hectare. Okay, when we pollute the lake, this is Amruthalli Lake, not very far, here only. The worth comes down to 20 rupees per day per hectare. Now, who are the people who are benefited because of these resources? Fishermen, washerwomen, and people like me who do science with lakes. We are the ones who benefited. Who are the people who pollute the lake? Elite section of the society who do not know where to send the sewage. They think it's a luxury to discharge the sewage into the nearby water bodies. Okay. We also did the quantification for the entire Karnataka. I am in the Karnataka Wetland Authority. People used to tell me there are no wetlands in Karnataka. To tell them that there are wetlands in Karnataka, I took the science to their doorstep. I showed 39,000 water bodies are there. And today they accept that there are 40,000 water bodies which are greater than the 2.5 hectares in the Karnataka state. That's how the science can help in the conservation. Now, what are the crises we are facing? Unplanned, irresponsible urbanization. Don't feel bad. You have to speak truth if you want to see the solution happening in the system. And loss of floodplain, loss of interconnectivity among the lake, narrowing the drains. Okay? Now, this is one of the famous picture you would have noticed everywhere. And everyone is the owner of this picture. We have just put it online. People are enjoying this. And everywhere when I go, people show me the same image and say, see, this is how Bangalore has become from green to red. 68% green cover in 1973, 2023, 86% is concretized. That is the root cause of the water problem in the city. Now let's look at how it changed. 73, when I was a kid, the place was green, pleasant climate with pleasant people. Okay. Then 92, with the industrialization of Pinion Core, Mungla BC changes happening. Then 2000 at outskirts with ITPT booming, BC changes happening. Then 2006 further intensification, 2009. And 2021, 81% landscape is concretized. and 2022, 84%. There has been a 1078% increase in bed surface. We have lost 88% vegetation and 79% of the water body. There are some people who use oxygen cylinder in the evening in the city. So don't be surprised if everyone in the city have to have the oxygen also. Our science also have to come out with a new mechanism so that cost-effective oxygen production. Okay. Now, I thought that okay, we should have all this message available to the people, information available. When the information is available, we are empowering the decision makers. So I hope that they can do the informed decision making. So whatever the science I have done over the 2.5 decades, I have made it public. So all my data is available. If you see that data we have provided, and also what is the scarcity of Bangalore, what is the solution? How to address that, so that if I am not talking, someone else can pick up my article and then start talking. And you would have seen a lot of articles people have written over a period of time. A lot of blogs have come out based on our work over the last 1.5 months. Okay, now let's look at how many trees are there in the Bangalore. This is my campus, IISC. We did the mapping of trees in the campus, 22,000 trees are there. We linked with the remote sensing data, and then we know the relationship between the tree canopy to the remote sensing data. With this knowledge of training data in a couple of words, we did the extrapolation for the entire Bangalore using the high resolution remote sensing data. Our study shows that 1.5 million trees are there in Bangalore for 9.5 million population. That means for every 7%, one tree is there. So most of the Bangaloreans do not know whether they require the trees. So that is the situation we are in, including the decision makers. Some of the politicians argue with me, trees are not required in Bangalore. I always ask them, do you breathe? If you are breathing, then you are giving out a carbon dioxide to an extent of 540 to 980 grams per person per day. That carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere. I have to remove that carbon dioxide. That's when trees are required, because they take away the carbon during photosynthesis. And 1 hectare of tree takes sequester the carbon to an extent of 6 to 9 tons per year. By that ratio, for every person, there should have been 7 to 8 trees. But what is happening in Bangalore? 7%, 1 tree. And because of that, there is oxygen deficiency in the city and also the water scarcity in the city. And of course, coupled with that, loss of humanity also. Now let's look at where all we lost the lake. 1973 to 2023, when you look at, we lost 79% of the water bodies. Okay, so then look at the water bodies with the dam. All the red ones are the ones we have lost over a period of last 5 decades in the name of development. Following the lake has become the order of the day by the influential section of the society. So, but the hidden agenda is something different. So now this gives the picture of the lake, what we have lost. And of course, soon I am going to put the details of what this lake and how it is translated into the thing over a period of time. Now let's understand as a common man, what is the implication of losing the water bodies and vegetation cover? The city, which had a temperature of 21 degrees Celsius in 92, became 24 in 2000, 28 degrees in 2010, today 36 to 39 degrees Celsius. And if you move from the center of the city in any direction, you will see that temperature is lower wherever lakes are there, wherever parks are there, and even my campus, IISC campus, temperature is 2 degrees lower. Probably that's the reason some of us do a good science. Okay. Now the implication of removing the water body, the flooding happens. At one end we see the flooding happening in 1 month and the water scarcity in the other month, in the same location. Okay. That is because of loss of interconnectivity. And using remote sensing data, we can even find out where all we lost the interconnectivity. When we did the ground survey, wherever the interconnectivity is lost, we saw the influential section of the society is sitting. The film heroes, they are heroes on the screen, but real zero on the ground with the encroachment of the land. And politicians. Okay, so that is where we did the. Okay. Then other lakes, Bangalore, the Vattur and Bellandur lake. See, 95 and 96 when my student did the study. the lake was like this. Today, the lake is like this. Profuse growth of macrophyte, invasive species, because of the nutrient availability. When the lake is like this, it does the job. So the job of the treatment, bioremediation happen. By the time when the water reaches the outlet, the treatment would have happened. That is evident from the dissolved oxygen, which is 0 at inlet, but it is 10 or 12 at the outlet. But when the lake is covered with macrophyte, you see dissolved oxygen comes down to 3 or 4. I will not get into the details why dissolved oxygen is important in the water. Now let us look at the productivity of the lake. Without sunlight penetration, with the profuse growth of macrophyte, you see the algae does not grow. Since algae is not there, you do not have the zooplankton and the fish. That's why the productivity of the lake come down from 10,500 to the 20 rupees per day per hectare. And how the lake is being used by us? For dumping solid waste, to build lake view apartments. We enclose the lake and construct the thing, and we also discharge the pollutant into the lake every day, and those who are away, they send it through the tankers. That means wherever people are in Bangalore, the pollution is going to our lakes, and these are the signs of that pollution. The frothing and the fire. I analyzed the reason for frothing. I found the phosphorus in this foam. Then I looked at the source of the phosphorus. It is from the detergent. Then of course, I requested the government to bring a restriction on the phosphorus-based detergent. Then of course, Government of India responded to my suggestion and they brought out the guidelines. But implementation is still weak, but we are trying to see how to implement it. And this is where the fire in the lake. I have traveled many countries. Nowhere people showed me the coexistence of fire and water except Bangalore. And Lokayukta woke up and he asked me to study this and give the report. In the meanwhile, what is the solution the government has come up with? The bureaucrat, they come up with the barricades. Of course, I wrote an article in the press saying that this is an ad hoc decision. We'll solve the problem for 4 days. Then, as I predicted, on the 5th day, the froth crossed over. But the chief of PDA called me and said, "We have solved the problem." I said, "Your solution is only for 4 days." On the 5th day, when it came on the street, then another article I wrote saying that how we wasted the resource. Then somebody called and told me they spent 2 crores for these barricades. Their problem is that minting the money at each opportunity whenever you face the crisis. Okay? Now, how it affects us, let us try to understand. This is quite worrying. People use this water for growing vegetables. If you go to the vicinity of the lake, in Bidadi or in Vattur, Ramachandra of the Bengaluru, Vattur, people grow pudina, spinach, then the radish, etc. We collected all those samples, including fish sample. When we analyzed, all of them had heavy metal. Heavy metal getting into our food chain is a quite worrying thing. Because of that, cancer and kidney failures are increasing in the city. Now, Bangalore is number 1 as far as cancer is concerned. Kidney failure, which was 1 in 1 lakh about 12 years back, today is 1 in 5,000. That means every 5,000 population, there is 1 person has a problem of kidney. When I go to some of the schools where I work, I see the children having the problem of kidney. Ramachandra government school, I come across 2 students having kidney failure boys. When I go to KK High School in Vattur, LKG, the girl child had lost 1 kidney. And 8th standard, the 2 girls had lost both the kidneys. And the security guard of the school also had lost the kidney. The principal wanted me to visit other class. I said, I don't want to visit. After a year when I visit the same school, when I asked the principal about this 8th standard kid, he said 8th standard kid is no more. So is the security guard of the school. The youth are the asset of our nation. We are not killing them. This is what we need to understand by polluting the resources. Okay. Now, we pressurized the government to rejuvenate the lake, Bengaluru and Vattur lake. I came up with a blueprint. Then, of course, the government was not listening to me. Then the local residents, they took it to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court in turn penalized the government of Karnataka 500 crore. That money is kept in the escrow account, and with that money we are rejuvenating Bengaluru and Vattur lake. Now, as per the blueprint what I have given to the government. Of course, I am in the monitoring committee. So one of the thing I said, we need to decontaminate the lake. To decontaminate the lake, you need to remove the accumulated contaminants which are there in the silt. We did the quantification of the silt. These are all our sampling points where we did the bathymetry analysis, water quality sampling, etc. When we did the current depth and looked at the historical depth, we could quantify what is the silt that is accumulated. About 11 million cubic meter of the silt is accumulated in the Bengaluru and Vattur lake. If you can convert that into fill, I said it is a worth of 1,500 crore. Now, when I said 11 million cubic meter of silt is there in the Bengaluru Vattur lake, again some experts popped up in Bengaluru. They said, oh, TVR proposal is going to kill the city traffic. He is going to create a chaos in the city. Then I thought that I should give a different kind of the thing. I looked at the nutrient content of the state. If you look at N, it can fertilize the soils in Punjab. If you look at P, it can fertilize soils in Uttar Pradesh. If you look at the K content in the soil, it can fertilize the soils in Andhra Pradesh. The worth is about 15,000 crore. Then I also talked to the local people whether they can use the silt which is there in the lake for the agriculture field. Bengaluru lake has some contamination, but Vattur lake, which is a downstream of Bengaluru, didn't have any contamination. We gave the silt to the 400 acres of the farmers. Since I'm in monitoring committee, I visit the lake every month. After 3 months, when I visited the farmers, the farmers showed me this. They loaded my vehicle with this kind of the vegetables, etc. They are so happy. Each farmer tells, because of your action, we got 1.5 lakh rupees per acre. There was a smile on every farmer's house. And they are so happy. When I visited the thing, I got the royal welcome. I was satisfied. That's how the science has reached the society. They grow thrice a year, 1.5 lakh into 3. Okay, 4.5 lakh per acre, is the worth of the silt, and that is what the science of IISC has taken to the field. Okay, now what else I have done? I am in the concluding part of my talk. I started my presentation at the 4:12, so I think I can go up to 4:12, but still it is 5 minutes to 5. Okay, so one is the reuse, recycle of wastewater. The second option, because I am also talking about the solution for the crisis. See, as a scientist, I criticize the system, but I also give the solution. I don't restrict myself only to write the article criticizing the system, but I also evaluate and come up with a viable solution. And that's what I've been doing over the last 2 decades. And these are some of the things, creating water bodies or mini forest in the region. And some you would have noticed in the campus, my actions. As a student, you would have enjoyed. As a youngster, when you visit the campus, you would have gone to that place. And also sensitizing the youth, I've been doing. Now, the one other action what I did at Chatkur Lake, way back in 2005, my study shows that Chatkur Lake and surrounding, there were 30 wells were there. All of them had nitrate. Nitrate is a carcinogen which introduces cancer. Then we pressurized the government to rejuvenate the lake. 2009, our blueprint was approved by the government and the government constituted a committee. I was a member of the committee and the Elaborati was the chairman of the committee. At the time, government said they will give the money which is sufficient to install the secondary treatment plant. Wastewater treatment, there are 3 levels: primary, secondary, tertiary treatment. Primary treatment will remove the large particle. Secondary treatment will remove the chemical ion. Tertiary treatment will remove the nutrient. Now, the problem of nitrate is the nutrient problem. Because of the untreated sewage with N and P is getting into the lake, it is getting oxidized and we have the nitrate. That is the problem of the nutrient. Now, the government solution of providing only secondary treatment plant would not solve the problem. Then what I did is, I integrated constructed wetland and algal pond. This is a nature-based solution. If you are from Western Ghat, you would have seen in your home the backyard, all these plants. What I have put here, like colocasia, which we say kesa in Kannada, and the typha, some of the grasses, etc. When it passes through this, anyway the plants require the N and P, sarojanic and rajat. So when they take it up, the water will not have the nutrient. Today, surrounding the lake, there are 300 wells. None of them have nitrate. I have a satisfaction that because of our size, I am giving a clean water at least to those 300 well users. Okay, and this is we have monitored the lake for the last 12 years. The report is available online. About 85 to 90% removal of nutrient happens. Okay, then what is the other solution to the Bangalore? Bangalore receives the rainfall of 700 to 850 millimeter annually. If you catch that rain, you have 15 TMC of water. What is the water demand in Bangalore? 18 TMC. That means 70% of the water required for Bangalorean is available in the form of rain, provided you do the rainwater harvesting. How do you do the rainwater harvesting? One, through the rooftop harvesting. Each house will have additional 5 to 6 months of water. And other best option at community level is rejuvenate the lake and retain the rainwater in the lake so that groundwater get the clean water of rain as it is happening in the Saraki Bay. Now, the city is also generating 18 TMC of wastewater. If I treat it similar to Chakkur model in every ward, I'll get 16 TMC of water. That means 15 TMC because of rainwater harvesting, 16 TMC because of the wastewater treatment. I have 31 TMC. This is the solution I have proposed to the government of Karnataka. I have been talking about it. But where are the people to take these ideas? That is where the youth are required in the system, to sensitize the system and to make sure that pressurize the system. That's where I have 5R formula. First R is a responsible citizen. When people have environmental knowledge, they become sensible. When they become sensible, they become responsible. When they are responsible, they will make sure the lake is not polluted or they make sure the lake is rejuvenated. I can retain the rainwater. Then I can reuse, recycle the wastewater. So that's where my 5R formula to solve the water problem in the city. Some of the media talked about it and they include me on these aspects. Okay? We have the solution at our doorstep. But we do not want to do it, but we talk about make it out. Illogical project we come up with. Make it out project is a project where you construct a dam, store a 65 TMC of water. But if you look at the hydrological services done by the forest in the region, make it out project will submerge 5,000 hectares of forest. 5,000 hectares of forest was doing the wonderful job of storing 100 TMC of water, which was releasing to the downstream at regular interval. And to construct the dam, we are spending 2,000 crore. But look at the ecosystem services of the system. It amounts to 100 billion rupees. That's what I asked the government. My forests are giving 100 billion rupees and storing 100 TMC of water. You want to destroy that and spend 20 billion rupees and construct a cement dam, and I'm not sure whether the water will be in the dam. These are the kinds of things that's happening in the system. Okay? Now what else I have done? This is a lake in the campus. When I was in the water committee, I convinced the people to have the water body in the campus. This is a good lab for my students working on biofuels. Not only students are happy, I also have a visitor, Arthur. I don't know from where it has come, it is there. It meets me at regular interval also. And it's a voracious eater of fish. I don't feed it. But when we did the biodiversity study, we saw there is enough algae, zooplankton and fish in the system. Nature, that's a wonderful job it does. When you facilitate the system, nature provides the food to everybody. And also when I meet people, I also make sure they also listen to us. This gentleman who is a saint in Mudbidre, he met me in 2016 because 2014 and 15 was a drought period in Mudbidre. He came to know that I am traveling in the region. Look at the wonderful day. A saint meeting a scientist. That's where I keep telling. Science, society, culture and spirituality should go hand in hand to see the prosperity in the country through the sustenance of natural resources. That should happen in our country. And we are culturally rich. We are not given the education with culture. We have given the education which moves them away from the culture. That is the gap. When this gentleman met me, I gave a lecture like this. Then he told me, I have 12 acres of land. I told him, your taluk has 32 lakes are there. Can you do the desilting? Next year there won't be a water problem. He said, 32 lake, how can I do it? I am a saint, how can I do it? He said. I said, at least do 2 legs. I will see remaining is done. As I predicted, he did 2 legs, and local people rejuvenated the remaining 30 legs. In the meanwhile, I gave a proposal to create a water body in his campus. My students, we analyzed the thing, we found out what is the water yield in the catchment, what is the size of the water body, etc. Okay? Within 15 days, the water body is created because of the youth. Where youth is there is a hope. Where sensible youth are there is a prosperity in the region. That's what I saw. The saint is also a, and the youth are there. And last year, scanty rainfall year, moved with rain didn't face water crisis while the neighboring taluks have faced a water crisis. Now the Karnataka, if you look at, we have 39,000 water bodies, decentralized water bodies. If all of us join hands and rejuvenate the water bodies in Karnataka, we will not have water crisis in Karnataka. Forget about Bangalore, even in Karnataka. That is where the thing. When I saw the success here, the youth, even CEO of Alva's Science and Engineering College was quite young. So I made sure that he creates a water body in campus which stores 25 lakh liters and also does the planting of native species. You can see. When people join hands with me, we work with nature. So when I visit that institution, of course I go regularly as a guest faculty, and you see the next year, you see the greenery with water and abundant resources. Because of that, we have the smile on our face. To put it on lighter side, this gentleman who is young, when he met me, he was a loner, bachelor, not getting married. Youngsters, you are here, you take the best. But after creating the water body, within 6 months, he gets a partner, wonderful partner, who takes care of the joint family. When I visit the place, she doesn't want me to stay in the guest house. She wants me to stay in their house. But when I go to Bangalore, somebody's house and knock at the door, they tell me we are not at home. I always ask them, what is this voice from inside? Is it a ghost or a devil in the... that is where the absence of culture and presence of culture matters in the system. Now, even the God's problem we have solved. Gokarna temple was thinking. The people wrote to me, the youth wrote to me. Then when we analyzed, we saw it is because of the practice. Organic content was getting into the water body. They performed rituals, that rice balls and the banana and leaves were disposed in the Koti Tirtha. That practice, you can stop anything in the country, you can stop water for a week, but you cannot stop this religious practice. What I did is, I had a meeting with these priests. You can see the priest here. I had a meeting. We had an understanding. I told them, I will identify a location where this disposal can be done, where Visarjana can be done. When that is done, you should chant and collect 200 rupees per family. On an average, every day, 100 to 150 families does the ritual. So we have the revenue of 20 to 25,000 rupees a month, which is, we give it to the NGO, and NGO has hired 3 youths. Their job is to do the de-weeding of the lake, and these rice balls which are there here, they take it and give it to cattle in the livestock in the Goshala. Even the Gorakshaks must be happy. Okay? And in the meanwhile, I introduced the fish which eats the rice. So now for the last 4 years, water body which was like this, before scientists visited the temple, and today it is like this. Earlier, this Lord Shiva and his son Ganesha were getting abhishek of this contaminated water. Now, they must be happy because they are getting a clean water bath, abhisheka. You might ask me, how do you know? Look at my profile last 5 years. What is the kind of the trajectory it has taken? You will see that how things can change in the system. When some people leave us, like one of my colleagues passed away because of overuse of mobile, I didn't cry. What I did is, on the 12th day of his death, we got the school children to do the planting in the campus. 500 ficus species, 500 ficus sapling, 5 varieties of ficus were planted. People tree and banyan and all those things. And the children come on their birthday, they do the watering of the thing. That's how the maintenance happens. These are the way we do it. It's not it's an impossible task for anybody to think of planting 500 the sapling of the ficus in a place. We had a land, and the good environment was there, good administrators were there. We could do that. Okay, so then this is the climber in the campus. I was fascinated by the architecture. That is what you can learn as engineers and scientists. Learn from nature, implement it in your life. You will be highly successful as I have done it. I got those seeds, 14. Out of 14, 7 I planted in 7 locations the campus. Other 7 I kept in my lab. Because as a scientist, I know when there is a success, there is a lot of criticism also. I know people will ask, what is the proof for them? If they want to do a check whether it's the same, this one they can do the molecular analysis also. I've kept those 7 seeds. Out of 7, only 1 has survived. That is next to this building where I worked for 2 decades. This is where I used to meet Professor CNN quite often. Early morning when I used to enter the lab, he used to take a turn and walk that side. Sometimes we used to pre-teach him. Okay. So, and in front of this, we created a mini forest. The credit goes to CNN. He gave the land. 2 hectares. 49 native species, 500 saplings were planted at that time. And today you get a feel of the rainforest. And look at the biodiversity. I have 4 families of slender lories and varieties of snakes. It won't come to the land, but they reside in the forest. And groundwater table, which was 150 feet earlier, today I have the water at 10 feet in that region. And temperature is 2 degrees lower. Whatever science I was talking earlier, I am demonstrating through this my experiment, which is convincing to the people. In fact, the other day, a group of students came to me and they said, "Sir, you should talk about the lake in the campus. We have named it as Ramachandra Lake." I said, "How did you name it? I have already named it as Centenary Pond because I did it on the centenary celebration year of the campus." I said, so now that is what we communicate to the wider section. We catch people and communicate. Sometimes I get a crowd of about 2,000 to 3,000 youth listening to me. And also I offer a course for the people working in industry and this is in addition to my regular courses. I teach 2 courses a year, and this is the through the continuing education 21 session I have done so far. 22nd I have announced. That means I am trying to see the capacity building at all levels. Catch them in, and also if they have missed something when they are working in industry or university, they can learn from us. That is where we can think of sustainability. The next event we are organizing is during 17th to 20th October. The uniqueness of this event is I get a crowd of about 1,000 people. Out of that, at least 10 to 15% are the school and college students. That is the thing. When children attend that event for 3 days, listen to all the lecture, naturally capacity building happens. And on 4th day, when they do the presentation to this audience, they become so confident. A lot of my students who attended this conference, today they are the faculties in IITs, IISC, etc. So these are, it's all like Ekalavya model that is being, what kind of experiment the children do? Simple carbon sequestration in the terrestrial ecosystem or in the aquatic ecosystem, catchment mapping, water quality assessment. You see the children doing the all the biological specimen assessment. And children in rural areas, they do the neighborhood mapping. They find out what kind of resources are there in their village, so that they never think of coming to the inside. Now, if you need more details, you can reach me through the email. I don't use mobile because I want to be happy. So, and these are the portals where you get the details. Okay. So, and you will. My talks are also available online. YouTube talks are there. TED talks are available at YouTube. You can do the Google search. 15 minutes. Those who are busy can also have that. Okay. So, see, my agenda is to sow the seeds of knowledge in this young brain. They'll become an asset to the nation. That's what we are looking for. That's what we are working for, and that's why we have been successful to some extent. And when they do good science, there is a smile on everybody's face. Thank you very much.
To get Bangalore back to 1992 or some level like that?
See, 1 is, I've been telling the government that we need to decongest Bangalore. That means, without mercy, we have to shift some of the major legislation out of the city. That is, why it is required. Not only to decongest the city, that is also to develop the other part of the state. That is called cluster-based development. When the youth in that region, when they migrate to the city, they have to stay in the slum. Instead of that, if they are at home, they can work during weekdays, and weekend they can do the farming. If you want to see this model already working in our country, go to Tamil Nadu, Tanjavur, Kumbakonam, Tirunelveli, that triangular junction. Youth from the nearby areas, villages, they travel to the city, they work, they go back to the village. In the process, the town is not terraced, okay? And that is mainly because that model is working because of the infrastructure and connectivity. Okay? When that happens, that is called cluster-based development. That's what Mahatma Gandhi talked about it. That is Surajya. So providing the job to the youth in their immediate neighborhood. That's the model that I'm talking about. And I have written an article on cluster-based development also, so that the people can this one. And the government of India level, the thinking is happening. One of the journal also came up with a special issue based on cluster-based development. So that is the first thing we need to do it. Second thing is rejuvenate all lakes in Bangalore. Make rainwater harvesting mandatory for all the new building that is coming up. Don't give electricity and water connection unless you check that there is a rainwater sump as well as the dual plumbing in the home. So, and wastewater treatment, if they do it, that's a wonderful job. See, the apartments came up in the outskirts of Bangalore. I was in the committee. The builders have given a thing saying that they will have the wastewater treatment plant in the apartment. There's a zero discharge from the apartment. Same apartment today they have violated. That's the statement I gave to the Supreme Court, and that's why Supreme Court said all the apartment owners, they should make sure that zero discharge for the discharge. So, this is what the decision support system I've been talking about. The Bangalore Urban Lake Information System. You can sit at home, you can visualize it. Similarly, Bangalore Lake Information System. Okay. Then we also have the natural capital accounting and valuation ecosystem service, because I am pushing the government to have green GDP, because the GDP is an erroneous metric. So I want to add the degradation cost in the development. So that is where I thought we should have that information there. Then Western Ghats decision support system. The net connectivity gone or and you can visualize your villages if you are from Western Ghats. So ecologically sensitiveness of the entire Western Ghats, okay, at the village level. Suppose if you are interested in a particular region, you can choose the region, okay, and you can also choose the district, okay. I have chosen Coorg. Slide slow, yeah, it has come. See, this is ESR1, this is ESR2, and this is ESR3, okay. Then if you choose the taluk, you can choose, okay, and also the village. And you can get the details why it is ecologically sensitive, okay. All the details we have put, and what is the data we have used to do this. All the data we have made it available, and all our publications, related to Western Ghats, we have put it here. I have made everything public so that people can look at the thing, whatever the article we have written over a period of time, you will come to know that, okay. So we have made the information available to the people, hoping that tomorrow would be better for all of us. Thank you.